So, not completely unrelated, there is a sophisticated critique of Ilhan Omar that she is is racist towards white people and to Jews. Remember,
Ilhan Omar, that all white people should have ankle bracelets on them until we figure out what the hell is going on.
We know that in her response to the introduction of federal legislation that would force anyone doing business with the federal government to sign a pledge that they would not protest against Israel, she said, I don't feel like it's right for me to have to sign a pledge. We know that she was smeared then with this critique of calling for that she was claiming that Jews had dual loyalty. She was talking about herself as a person who's not Jewish, or anybody for that matter, who's going to do business with 26 states that have legislation to this effect, or the federal government, that they should not have to sign a pledge, that they're not going to protest against, well, Israel or any other country for that matter, or any other business. I'm not going to, get federal contracts. I have to pledge not to protest against Walmart. I mean, give me a break. Well, here's the latest version. Ilhan Omar was on with Mehdi Hassan on Al Jazeera English on Mehdi's program and Out Front. And here is the video that Marco Rubio, who's still hurting probably because his federal pledge legislation is not going to be law. Marco Rubio shared. This is where Ilhan Omar claims, or supposedly, that we should monitor white people, which I reserve the right to say is maybe not necessarily a bad idea. But go ahead.
A lot of conservatives in particular would say that the rise in Islamophobia is a result not of hate, but of fear, a legitimate fear, they say, of quote-unquote jihadist terrorism, whether it's Fort Hood or San Bernardino or the recent truck attack in New York. What do you say to them?
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. We should be profiling, monitoring, and creating policies to fight the radicalization of white men.
So there you have it. She has said, she stated the fact that in terms of domestic terrorism, at least, and then I would imagine, in other areas, but specifically
violence
in terms
in
of domestic terrorism, we should be afraid of white people, which is simply factually true. More people have died at the hands in the past 10 years of domestic white domestic terrorists than anything else. Probably domestic terrorism in the modern era. We should be concerned about white Americans. And then she went on to say that we should monitor and surveil white people. Now, that seems to be a little bit hypocritical, because I would imagine she wouldn't say that we should be doing that for other people.
We should not be monitoring and spying like that on any group.
Yes,
period.
It's a little bit hypocritical, but I did notice there was a white flash.
Yeah, it was
in between there. And sometimes that becomes, I don't know if that's, for a while I thought that was just a sign that my name had been cut out of something, but it just suggests that something's been cut out.
We need to talk to Sam Seder
Here we go.
and others.
Here is that comment actually as it was relayed to Mehdi Hassan.
A lot of conservatives in particular would say that the rise in Islamophobia is a result not of hate, but of fear, a legitimate fear, they say, of quote-unquote jihadist terrorism, whether it's Fort Hood or San Bernardino or the recent truck attack in New York. What do you say to them?
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. And so if fear was the driving force of policies to keep America safe, Americans safe inside of this country, we should be profiling, monitoring, and creating policies to fight the radicalization of white men.
But most of the
pause it for 1 second. So I just want to be clear. What they cut out was her introduction to that point about monitoring white men, which was, if we're going to allow fear to dictate what our policy is, that's what we would do.
Yeah,
and
but
then,
whose fear?
Well, just fear. But here, now continue.
I don't support monitoring at a fucking fair.
Most of the funding and attention, even under Obama, obviously went towards Muslim communities. One of those communities is in Minnesota, your state, the Somali American community in Minnesota, where I think over the past few years, more than 20 young Somali Americans have left to go and fight for ISIL or Al-Shabaab or one of these quote-unquote jihadist groups abroad. That's a real threat, obviously. No one's pretending it's not a threat. So what do you do about it?
But I mean, I think, like I said, the focus of our policies should be about keeping Americans safe, keeping us domestically safe, and where we actually find a solution is looking at our foreign policy, looking at how we are engaging with the members of these communities, and the kind of rhetoric, right, like that is being spewed out of leaders within our city halls, within our state capitals, and within our nation's capital.
So there you have it. So
Queen.
I was really I was wondering, because she wrote I think she actually has a piece in the New York Times saying it's not enough to just reject Trump's racism. We need to deliver for economic justice, basically, for everybody. And so I was when I saw the lying clip, I was surprised, because I would think, she doesn't make this kind of essentialist tit for tat argument. She makes really smart arguments. And of course, it was a distorted fake clip. It would be kind of cool, though. This is the Nation of Islam Obama 2.0.
Gotta figure out what the hell's
sure.
going on.
I, Ilhan Omar, propose a complete ban on construction of new Red Lobsters until we figure out what the hell is going on. Super Bowl parties will be banned and chicken wings not delivered. No, I don't hate white people, but they're bad people and we don't know.
I'm
sure some of them are nice people, but many of them are listening to Kenny Loggins.
let's play this.